Oh, hey! I'm glad you're here. Welcome to Season 11 of VHS. If this is your first time listening, the premise of this podcast is each episode is about a film and the guest has the profession or experience portrayed in the film. Like Teen Witch with a witch, Shockma with a LARPer, Nightmare on Elm Street 3 Dream Warriors with a therapist, or Vibes with a psychic medium. You get it. We also have a few alternate formats like this special episode, which allows us to talk about many more movies. This season will be a random grab bag of all these formats, so I hope you're ready for a wild ride. Also, this season sees a reworking of our Patreon. We hire artists and employ talented people to carry out our various strange tasks, and that takes support. So head on over to Patreon.com/VHUS podcast, and for the price of forgetting you're subscribed to the Hallmark Movies channel after the holidays, you can play a pivotal role in people making art. The tiers aren't pricey, and each month you could be entered to win a prize package of weird movies, stickers, freeze-dried candy, hot sauce, buttons, episode art, and more. We were focusing on more episodes there, but let's be honest, you've got a lot to listen to. So imagine the peace of mind that comes with doing something good and actually receiving something tangible and fun. Also, since we're just aiming for sustainability, the chances of you winning in any given month, quite high. I'm very excited about getting weird on this Patreon, so if that sounds fun, please think of supporting. Now let's get to this episode, where I'm joined by Edmund, and we get to know each other through movies. This episode is the first episode of Season 11. The guest is Edmund McMillen, and this is VHS Presents 10 Movies to Get to Know Me. Hello, and welcome to VHS Presents 10 Movies to Get to Know Me. I'm your host, Dirk Marshall, and I encourage you to find us on Twitter and Instagram at VHUS_podcast. I am joined by acclaimed video game designer and artist, Edmund McMillen. Thank you for being here.
Thank you for having me.
For listeners not familiar with your work, your resume consists of games like Super Meat Boy, The Binding of Isaac, and somewhere around a trillion Flash games, I think.
Yeah, there's a couple of them.
And your new game is called Mugenics, is that right?
Yeah, the one I'm working on right now, I still got another year and a half. So,
okay.
Yeah, Mugenics, The End is Nigh, Legend of Bumbo, those are the latest.
Yeah, and I watched, I think it's a teaser music video on YouTube, maybe?
For Mugenics?
I think so. There's like a catchy little song about rubbing cats together.
Oh, yeah, that one's like 10 years old.
Oh, really?
There's a whole story. Eugenics is the phoenix that rose from the ashes of a terribly... maybe I can't say that on here. I used to have a company with somebody, and Mugenics was a project that I really loved and I wanted to continue, and I was the only one that was into it. And it got forcefully canned for many years. And then when the company split, I took it, and now I'm desperately blowing air into it.
That's great.
Pounding on it.
And it'll be a thing.
And it will, and it is. And it's great. It's easily my best work. It's just going to be a little bit longer before it really gets out there.
That's awesome. All right. Well, this is not a normal format for us, but we met on Twitter and we were talking about movies and stuff back and forth, and then the conversation about this episode kind of came about. And I had tweeted 10 albums to get to know me, and you asked if I'd ever done it with movies, and I absolutely hadn't. So here we are meeting for the first time, and I'm super excited about this conversation.
Yeah, I liked your album list too. I know I was familiar with 3 of the albums on there.
Nice.
I thought, oh wow, because it paints a nice picture.
Yeah,
of who the person is.
I think it's the tricky part with this was trying to show all the different corners, because I've seen some of your collection of films, and they're varied. They're vastly varied from stuff that you and I have discussed, where I'm like, I've never talked to another soul that's watched this, and onto the Marx Brothers and things. So
yeah.
I'm really looking forward to this. I did listen to you on the podcasts Eggplant, The Secret Life of Games, as well as Check the Wire. Both are fascinating conversations about you and video games.
I don't even remember doing those.
Oh, yeah.
It's been a while back.
Yeah. 2019 and one was 2021.
But, okay.
Yeah. So if people want to hear you exclusively talk about video games, then please check out those episodes of those podcasts, because we're talking about movies, not video games today.
Yeah, I'd also recommend that I did a recent one called Turn to Punk, which is
that's the one I heard
music.
today.
Okay, so that's one of my favorite ones. I like doing stuff that's not directly about video games.
You know what's funny about that one is it's about like punk and everything. You talked about music for like 1 minute of that, and then the rest of it was video games.
I mean, because punk goes beyond.
Yeah.
Punk is an attitude. It's a means of artistic expression.
Yeah, that's one
Not so
thing.
much just. It's not exclusive to music, even though I know that's what the podcast is about.
Right. That's something that as I was listening and hearing you talk about yourself, your family, your creative path, I was like, there's real similarities between me and this gentleman that I haven't had the conversation with yet. So, yeah, I'm so excited to hear these things that have influenced you.
When I saw your copy of Ratman, I had a feeling like
Yeah.
I think we'd be friends.
Well, and just hearing you describe parts that were in your games and that you did comics that were pretty dark humor, and I had a zine in high school that almost got me expelled. So yeah, I was like, I think I understand where this guy's coming from.
Yeah.
So the way this episode is designed is we each brought 10 things that influenced our tastes, and we'll start with you, Edmund, if you want to start.
So I'm doing this chronologically. It's going to start out similar. I don't know. We'll see. We'll see where it goes.
Okay.
This is probably an influence of many of us, and I include
Yeah.
you and us,
Thank you.
and us. I mean the people probably listening, because Evil Dead 2. I saw Evil Dead 2 when I was 6 years old, and I saw it with my dad while he was high,
Oh.
laughing his ass off, and it was one of the first movie that I'd seen that made me feel like I was watching something that I shouldn't be watching. It felt really dangerous. It felt really intriguing, and how weird and unlike anything else at the time that I had seen. It got me very, very interested in horror movies. So it was my young gateway into horror films. And I, of course, rediscovered it later again. And hunting down, I don't know if you remember this, but trying to find a VHS copy of Evil Dead 2 was really hard back in the day. And I remember coming up with elaborate plans on how I would steal the VHS tape from Blockbuster and get away with it. And it was just so hard to get your hands on one. And then it became real available and everybody loves it. That one was a pivotal early movie for me.
Yeah. No, that's excellent. So in my dad's video store, we had Evil Dead 2. We didn't have Evil Dead 1. So I'd seen part of 1. It was on television. I think it was probably TBS or something. And it was just a small section, and it was in the trees. And so I was looking for this haunted tree movie for a long time. And then I saw Evil Dead 2 and was like, oh my gosh, this is kind of like the haunted tree movie I saw on TV. And then I saw Evil Dead 1 and was like, oh, okay, I understand this. But of course, Evil Dead 2 was what spoke to me the most. And my first pick is actually Tetsuo Iron Man from 1989. But what I wrote down was when it comes to gore, there were things like The Thing and Evil Dead 2, which was even more my style at that age. But when I saw Tetsuo, we didn't have it, so I had to hunt for it. And, I saw it in like some type of cult bookstore, and I was like, what is this thing? I tracked it down. No idea who the director was, and this was probably my first Japanese film. And I love movies from Japan, China, Korea. It taught me about cyberpunk. It was as industrial as anything I'd ever seen, and I loved industrial. And it was body horror, which I loved Cronenberg later on. So this was like something, it's like a mega pick on my list because it kind of hits 3 different things that I can't help but be passionate about. For anyone that doesn't know it, it's directed by Shinya Tsukamoto, stars Tamara Taguchi. It's about a metal fetishist who's run down by a businessman, and then the film just descends into madness. It's black and white. At this same time, I was also obsessed with Shogun Assassin, which my dad's video store had, and I didn't know what Lone Wolf and Cub was, so Shogun Assassin was like, just blew my mind. But yeah, Tsukamoto was my intro to body horror. I know you have his box set as well. And then next came my love for Cronenberg, and that I also saw Biozombie, Machine Girl, Ichi the Killer was my first Miike film, but it all comes from Tetsuo. And I would take the VHS tape from the store. I didn't show that it was checked out or anything, and go to people's house and put it on, like at house parties and stuff, and just kill the vibes in parties with this crazy movie. But
it was one of those. I remember Tetsuo and Guinea Pig were like the two, like, what is this? Well, what's going on here?
Yeah, when he's like, how about a sewer screw, bitch? I was like, oh my gosh, this is crazy. But yeah, that's so funny that you had Evil Dead 2 as your first pick, and I had it too. That's great. What's your second pick?
My second pick is the Toxic Avenger.
Oh, nice.
Toxic Avenger may be my number 1 influence.
Which you also saw really young, right?
Yes. I saw it when I was 7,
Dude,
1 year after Evil Dead.
that's so crazy.
So you remember back when, I don't know if you had places like that where you are, but there's a rental places that would put little chips. They'd
Yes,
stick.
we
Yeah,
had
okay.
chips. We did
So the
chips.
chip, when you pull the chip off and you give it to your mom, she doesn't see the cover.
Right.
So I saw the cover, I saw the back, and it looked insane,
Hmm.
but it looked funny.
The cartoon drawing on the cover of the box was
Yeah,
funny.
it
He's got
looked
a
it looked
mop, and
goofy.
yeah, he looks
Yeah,
like Sloth. I was like, all right.
and it is funny. That's the thing. So it
Yeah.
is funny, and it dances around like being childlike,
Hmm.
and then to horribly inappropriate. I shut it off at the cornhole a bitch part after the dog gets killed. I knew at that point I was gone into something I shouldn't be watching.
Right.
And I told my mom I needed to return it. It wasn't appropriate. And I got another movie.
Do you remember what you got?
Short Circuit 1.
I was gonna say not two.
No, it was. I don't think Short Circuit 2 was out yet.
Right.
I think it was. Yeah, I think it was Short Circuit. There was also a movie that I would frequently rent where, remember Balky Bartokomous
Yeah.
from
Bronson
Perfect Strangers?
Pinchot.
He did one where he was a psychic.
Oh, yeah.
I used to rent it a bunch. I don't know why. I watched it recently and it did not.
It's him and John Larroquette, right?
I can't remember.
Oh gosh, I can see it in my head. He's like
Yeah.
levitating on the box.
Yes, he is levitating on the
He's
box.
got his legs crossed.
It was strange.
Yes, I saw it.
But again, it was one of those things I saw really early, and then later on was like, I want to see the rest of this movie when I got a little older.
Mhm.
And it was so mean. It was such a harsh commentary on how things were, and so filled with anxiety. You could see that there's a lot of phobia in this, and then this person who's creating this almost has a hate for people, and how awful everybody is, and everybody's awful, and they just torture this, the most innocent person in this horrible place, and turn him into a monster, and then he cleans up the house.
Mhm.
There's nothing like it, and including anything else Lloyd Kaufman did. It's just hard to, I don't know. It is incredibly unique, hard to watch now.
Yeah.
It's over the top cruel in ways that I think movies, unless they're just serious, like in ways that funny movies won't be anymore.
Yeah.
It took a lot of balls, and it really broke the mold. Like nothing was like that. Like you could say that Evil Dead 2 wasn't never mean. It was funny. Like
Yeah.
it was Three Stooges gore.
Hmm.
This was cruel. This was running over a innocent child's head
Yeah.
repeatedly, like for points.
Yeah.
It made a profound impact on me when I was really young, and then continued. So it's one that I continue to watch these days, and I'm always just kind of like, wow. It looks really cool in really raw ways.
Hmm.
It looks dirty and dingy. The whole town looks filthy. It goes from smart to stupid instantly. It epitomized, trauma, and I don't think it ever got better. For me, it was a high point. So I love that movie a lot.
Yeah, that's an excellent pick. I have a trauma on my list a little bit later. It's not the feature, but it's definitely mentioned. My next pick. Okay, so as a kid in my family's video store, I kind of had access to like whatever. And so, as I've said before, I had a little top loader VCR underneath the table that I put a blanket over. Tiny little travel TV, if you've ever remembered those things.
Yeah.
Like a screen the size of your hand. And I would just pull stuff off the shelf and I'd just watch whatever. So for years I would do that, and if I lost interest, I just turned the sound down and I would listen to music. And so as the years progressed, I got into like goth and like synth pop and noise. And one director perfectly captures this feeling for me, and that is Godfrey Ho. And it's just his ability to take these components of things that don't really belong together, because he does a lot. He did 150 movies or something, and a lot of them, or a good portion, are movies stitched together, and then he would shoot some footage and tuck it in there, because he loved hopping vampires, and he loved ninjas, especially tall Italian white guys as ninjas, and and those weird components stuck together in this gritty VHS transfer. It's just really comforting to me. I was also on a podcast where I was a huge advocate for this director, known as Dog Zone 9000. It's hosted by Sean Baby and Robert Brockway from 1-900hotdog.com. And I was their resident hohead, and we did Twinkle Ninja Fantasy. And so I picked Clash of the Ninjas, and I will put the image up on the Instagram and whatnot, but I'll just show it to you. There you go.
I think I got this by your recommendation.
Oh, did you? Okay, great. Yeah, so it looks like it has Cobra in it. It does not have Stallone or Cobra in it. It's like a Chinese crime film, but stitched together with these weird ninjas that when you kill them, they turn into puffs of like cotton balls. It's so bizarre. And when I was on the Dog Zone 9000, we were going through the story of a Godfrey Ho movie like that, and I've honestly watched so many of them, never thought about the story. I have no idea what's happening in any of
They're
these
just doing
movies.
stuff.
They're just doing stuff. And he would use music because he was doing illegal stuff anyway, allegedly, I guess. So there would like Joy Division pops up in that movie, like and you're just like, there's Joy Division in this Chinese film that's stitched in with this ninja thing. It's such a bizarre combination. But my favorite example of this is in Ninja in a Killing Field. So the movie is called Ninja in a Killing Field. It's got ninja, it's got crime, and the soundtrack is parts of Cocteau Twins.
Really?
Yeah, and it's like such a weird mix.
He's putting this in there?
Yeah.
Like, so that's interesting.
Yeah, so then I'm like, he listens to Duran Duran, he listens to Joy Division, he listens to Cocteau Twins, but he's making ninja movies, and it's just like for me, it's the best thing. And I know they call them Z grade movies, or they just think there's nothing redeeming about these, but I absolutely love them and thoroughly enjoy them. And so there was no way Godfrey Ho wouldn't be on this list because, his style led me to discover all kinds of things like Bruno Mattei's work with Strike Commando 1 and 2, Robo War, the 1970s film, what's it called? Swordsman with
I thought he didn't make Robo War.
No, he did Robo Vampire.
Robo Vampire.
Yeah,
okay.
which is...
Oh, I have Robo Vampire.
Yeah.
I've seen that.
Yep. RoboCop versus a vampire. Yeah,
yes.
It's very good. Yeah, Swordsman with an Umbrella, which is like a Mary Poppins ninja with an umbrella. It's unbelievable, pretty wild. He did a lot of great, interesting, strange things that I find deeply comforting. It's one of those things that I've watched a lot of, but completely by myself. I've never watched it with another person. I wouldn't make my wife sit through it. But for me, it's wonderful. So I gotta say, Godfrey Ho.
That's awesome.
What's your next pick?
My next pick isn't a movie, but it was a very hard to find DVD.
Okay.
It is Liquid Television.
Yes.
I have the whole collection on like some bootleg anthology of everything. But originally you could only get the best of on DVD, and it's super expensive to get now. Liquid Television was a show on MTV that would come on around 11, right when you're not supposed to be up when you're in 5th grade, which is when it came out for me. You knew that you were watching Independence. I'm knowing this as a young kid, being like, this isn't made by a company. Yeah. This is made by a dude and some other people, like randos. This is not cohesive. This is just a collection. And we always had this touring festival called Spike and Mike's Festival of Animation and Spike and Mike's Sick and Twisted Festival of Animation, which I was too young to go and see, but would later go and see.
I was just going to say that. I was the same way. I knew that was happening, but I couldn't get into the theater. It played at our art house, and they were sticklers on that stuff.
Yeah. I was able to finagle my way into the regular animation festival a few times when I was that young, but this was like better. Liquid Television was out of control.
Yes.
And Eon Flux was nuts. Like, it was just the coolest shit you can imagine, but also just throwing everything out there, like just bizarre music video type stuff and just weird little one-off jokes. Sometimes there's a series. Winter Steel was like made you feel uncomfortable watching it. Do you remember the Winter Steels? It's the puppets. It was a girl puppet. She's a biker.
Yeah. Oh my God, I haven't thought about that in forever.
Yeah. Winter Steel. You go back and watch Winter Steel and you're like, whoa, this is fucking insanely good. I didn't like it as a kid because I didn't understand it. And it was so rapid fire. It was going too quick for me to understand. And it was so short. And they would just like, you'd only get an episode. And it was just this woman going, you fucker, blah, 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 and like fighting people and stripping and being bloody. But man, watch that again and you're like, wow, they did some really, really interesting visual stuff. And God, Liquid Television was just riddled with inspiration. And as a kid, I was like, holy shit, I want to be an animator. That was the first time I ever thought that could be a possibility in the future. Because if people are showcasing these people's weird shit, then I could make weird shit too. So that's kind of where it started.
Yeah, and they were different lengths too. You never knew how long something was going to go on for. There was something I saw in Liquid Television. I would tape it all the time. I have VHS tapes of Liquid Television in 120 minutes. But I saw this one thing, and it's this guy who was hanging upside down like he was a chameleon or something. And I don't know if it was just live action or if there was some sort of animated something going on in it. But it's this image in my head. I've never been able to find it. I've never seen it again. It,
Describe it again. Describe it in detail.
he's like in the corner of a room, upside down. He's wearing a suit, and there's something about a chameleon, possibly. It had sort of that Max Headroom era kind of feel to it, like there's something animated possibly going on. Maybe his head's made of clay or something. It's just this weird image, and I saw it one time, and I was like, this is one of the coolest things I've ever seen, and then never seen it again. I don't know.
The only thing that comes close to what you're describing to me is something from Dog Boy. Did you remember that series in Liquid
That
Television, Dog Boy?
sounds
It was
familiar.
live action, and I think it was actually the guy that made the comic Black Hole. I feel like he was involved.
Hmm.
He at least drew like that main picture, but it was live action, and everybody's hair was sculpted clay.
No, I remember that. It wasn't that.
It wasn't that. Okay.
No, this was like a weird dark thing. Maybe it was even just like some type of
It could
MTV.
have been a bumper. Yeah.
Yeah, bumper. Yeah, so that's probably what it
That's
was.
intriguing though. It doesn't ring any bells for me though.
Gosh, I don't even know how to search for it. I've tried a couple times and just been like, no, this is madness. But anyway, that's awesome. Okay, my third pick is 2020 Texas Gladiators. There was VHS covers in our video store that I would stop and look at every single day, and all of them were better than the movies themselves. But 2020 Texas Gladiators was one that I was like, this is the best thing I've ever seen. Much like the Death Stalker cover, if you remember that one, or
Yeah.
Rotor was another one that is
Yep.
like, it's an amazing box. And then you watch the movie and you're like, what is this? Like,
Like half their budget went into the
yeah,
art,
yep.
the art for the box.
Yeah, I still love it. But I had to have something post apocalyptic on the list because I love those movies. There's something so funny about being like, we don't have any resources, but they're always fighting in factories. It's like, well, just fix the factories. Like, why are you all shooting each other in these rundown factories? The premise of it is that in a post apocalyptic Texas, a band of warriors fight against a fascist regime that's trying to take control of all the surviving people. It's basically what's happening nowadays. It's great because it's set in Texas, but it's clearly an Italian film. And I didn't know that as a kid, so I was watching it and I'm just like, this feels weird. It's probably the first Italian movie I ever saw. It's directed by Joe D'Amato. It led me to like Warriors of the Wasteland, aka The Last Barbarians, or Empire of Ash, or The Final Executioner. These are all like movies that I was just like, I'd watch.
I don't think I've seen any of those movies.
Oh, Warriors of the Wasteland's great. That one's super fun. Whether you watch it that title or The Last Barbarians, it's really good. It's got some stuff in it where you're like, they really just did that to the hero? That is wild. And like this movie, 2020 Texas Gladiators, I hadn't rewatched it for years, but I had to track down a bootleg copy of it. As long as it had the cover, that's all I needed. And lent it to a friend, having not rewatched it in over 20 years probably. And he's like, I can't believe you love this movie and it starts off with mutants raping nuns. And I was like, oh my gosh, that's in there? And then I put it on and I was like, oh, yep, that's how the movie opens. Oh, jeez. Okay, well, I'm sorry. I didn't remember that part. But yeah, you would think that would leave an impression, but
Means that there's some memorable other scenes.
yeah, for sure. This VHS tape was right next to Troma's War, which was what I was talking about earlier. That was my first Troma movie, and a Troma version of an action movie is very different. And
Yeah, from what I remember, it wasn't really funny. It was just kind of weird, right?
it's weird, it's ugly, the violence is really up front, which, at the time it's just like Rambo blood pack explosions. I wasn't watching
Yeah.
anyone like tear someone's whole tongue out. So it was really just crude. And then I think shortly after that was the Slumber Party where I saw Troma's War, because we didn't have Toxic Avenger, because we didn't have that in our video store. But yeah, you don't forget your first trauma. But yeah, 2020 Texas Gladiators, that's my pick. What's your fourth?
I've got a weird one. Where are you in the US again?
I'm in Portland, Oregon.
Portland, Oregon. So have you been there your whole life?
No, I grew up 2 hours south of here, Springfield, Eugene area, and then I did a
Okay.
year in Seattle before landing.
So there's
here
a
in
chance
2000.
that this reached you. There is a show. So at this point, I'm 12 to 14. There was a show that came on the air in California. It started out in the Bay Area and went everywhere. I think it went as far as Texas. So I know it probably went up north, called Fishmasters. It was on at 1 a.m.
We had
after
Bass
Saturday Night
Masters.
Live.
Is that different?
That's not the same thing.
Okay.
Fishmasters was made by two guys who worked for KSCO, I think, which was just like a local. It's like San Luis Obispo news station.
Okay.
And one of the guy's wives was a newscaster, and they were editors. And they were friends, and they would get together and film random shit and goof off. And they filmed the pilot for this show called Fishmasters, and finagled their way into the station airing it. And they were like, "Okay, we have a dead spot. We're going to air your pilot," and it did really, really well.
Wow.
And so they gave them more chances, and they kept outperforming everything else at 1 a.m. on Saturdays. And the show is a fishing show where they don't ever catch a fish. So it's this like joke fishing show, but it's also a joke independent show, which isn't so much of a joke because they are just two guys and a cameraman. And one person's doing all the editing, one person's making noises and sounds for music, and it's just them making stuff. So they make fun of it and they play it up, but the magic was in the fact that they got you to watch this show at 1 a.m. and you couldn't really turn it off. And they would fuck with you. There were many episodes where there was an episode where he's like, "Remember when?" And it was a remember when episode, which everybody hates because, you know, you're just rehashing old stuff. But literally what they do is they sit down at a bench and they say, "Hey, remember when you fell off the pier?" And he's like, "No, I don't remember that." So there's a dumb guy, they're Hicks. There's a really stupid guy who's just an idiot. He's called the idiot. And then there's the smarter dumb guy, and that's the Fishmaster. They're both the Fishmasters. They don't have names on the show. And the idiot always wears a life preserver, and Carl, which is the guy's name, always wears a camo shirt, which I own.
Oh, the actual shirt?
I have it framed over there. As the show goes on, they're like, "Remember when you fell off the pier?" And he's like, "No, I don't remember that." And then they show him falling off the pier. And he's like, "You don't remember that?" And he's like, "No, I don't remember that." And he goes, "Well, right before that, we're on the pier." And then it rewinds that episode a little bit more. And all they do is show a 5 to 10 minute segment over the course of 30 minutes and then intersplice them saying, "Remember when that happened?" And shows like that didn't air after one show because people hated it.
Right.
But there was an infamous show, and the shows were funny. Like, I'm just, you know, this sounds terrible that I'm explaining this, but the shows were magical because nothing was like it. And it was so funny and so weird. And they would intersplice a lot of like man on the street stuff, like random interactions with people on the street. Very Tom Green before Tom Green was a thing. It was like Tom Green meets Wayne's World, I guess you could probably say, or Beavis and Butthead. And there was an episode where it was the 4th of July. It happened to a line, and they were like, "This is," oh no, it was New Year's. "This is the extra spectacular super duper Fishmaster extravaganza. You know, it's going to be the greatest thing. You know, we're doing a parade and blah, blah." And that's all. And then they say, "Stay tuned." And there's just a picture, a static picture of the Fishmasters. And then it's just the dude going, "La, la, 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 la."
Oh, nice.
And then it says, "Please hold. Fishmasters extravaganza will continue." And they do that for the whole 30 minutes. And then the last 10 seconds is them walking down a street with like 3 people on the sides of it cheering. And that's it. They never aired that either. And supposedly the guy like took the tape and broke it because he knew that they were going to try to find a way to air it again to annoy people.
Did you see that?
I saw it.
Wow.
I would record it when I could and stay up when I could. I was still pretty young then, and could be a challenge to stay up that late. But every morning I would watch each episode multiple times. And that was, it was just a magical, it felt like it was being made for me. And it got pretty popular. And I was the Fishmaster for Halloween for like 3 years.
Have you ever thought about putting a Fishmaster in any of your games?
No, but many times I've talked about it because I know that, you know, they're retired now at this point and they put up DVDs and stuff to sell, and I try to get people into them. I know Jonah Vasquez is a fan of theirs, and I at least got that sale for them.
That's awesome.
But yeah, I don't know if it translates. My one Halloween ritual is putting on Fishmaster's Halloween every Halloween, and my daughter loves it too. And I always try to show it to people, but I don't think anybody's gonna.
Yeah, well, I'm gonna pick it up right away. I've never even heard of this. This is so crazy. My thing. Oh, that's great. My 4th is Alligator from 1980. I love shark movies. Jaws, of course, a masterpiece. I love chasing down old, weird shark movies from around the globe. I recently finally got Col, C-O-L, from Turkey, which is just a guy floating in the ocean, and then at the end they show a shark, but he doesn't actually encounter it. But like no one I knew had ever seen it. And so I was like, I've got to track this thing down. And so I finally did it, and I was just watching it going, what is this? But like Cruel Jaws is really great as well.
I've seen that one.
Yeah, but Alligator was the movie that changed it all for me. I had a pool growing up, and every birthday was a swimming party. So after I saw Alligator with the alligator in the pool, it just was different. And it's directed by Louis Teague. I love animal attack movies. I just call them things eating people movies. That's what I always called them.
Yeah.
He directed Jewel of the Nile, Cat's Eye, and Cujo. It stars Robert Forster, Henry Silva. This would lead me on to find things like Slugs and Wild Beasts and Monster Dog. Do you know Wild Beasts?
Not Wild Beast, but I know Monster Dog and Slugs.
Yeah. Well, Wild Beasts, directed by Franco Prosperi. It's PCP gets into the water supply of a zoo.
That sounds amazing already.
Yeah. And spoiler alert, also into like a kindergarten. It's it's wild. There's a sequence with elephants on the tarmac that's like unbelievable. Like they're all real animals. It's just like, what?
Just let the animals loose.
They're just loose. It is Wild Beasts. It's really entertaining. I highly recommend it for people that like those things. But Alligator finally got a Blu-ray release this last year, and it looks amazing. So I recommend.
I gotta pick that up. I only have the DVD.
Yeah, I do too. But my DVD was from Korea, I think. So, and I love that.
Mine might be too. Was it like a weird one where the image is smaller than the?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay, that's the one I have.
Yeah, I have a lot of bootlegs like that of movies that aren't released. To support your actual artists, but I love it when they come from some other country but then have different subtitles. Like it's a Korean film with Greek subtitles but then it's dubbed in English, and
the worst ones are the ones it's like it's burned in. It's not an option. It's the burned in DVD German.
These are all burned
translation.
In.
Yeah, okay, yeah. That's always fun.
It's just another layer to it where you're just like, this is what is happening. Feeding. Everyone's got to do it, even vampires. But if you aren't a vampire, or a baby vampire, then sometimes eating can become so repetitive and boring. Which is where Marshall's Hot Sauce comes in. Liven up any meal with those small batch sauces made from only the freshest ingredients. From the sweet, mild heat of smoked habanero barbecue to the addictive serrano ginger lemongrass, or even my two personal favorites, habanero carrot curry and bird's eye basil. In fact, Marshall's Hot Sauce even has a new line of seasonings, including an incredible barbecue rub, a chicken marinade, and even a volcano sparkle that a vampire could eat. The best part is that you can enter VHS Podcast at checkout for 20% off. That's right, liven up those meals and wake up those undead taste buds at marshallshotsauce.com. That's Marshall's, Haute sauce.com. And enter VHS Podcast for 20% off. And now, back to the show. All right, what is your fifth?
My fifth is Dead Alive.
Yes.
Dead Alive was the only thing that could eclipse Evil Dead 2 when it came to gore. It was this infamous movie that was very hard to get. Again, it was at the point at time where Evil Dead 2 was available and you could get it and rent it. Dead Alive was just so hard to get the uncut version. It was like impossible to get the uncut version.
Yeah.
They had the R-rated version. They had the cut version that said it was unrated, but it still wasn't uncut.
Mm-hmm.
And I even think even now they don't even have a Blu-ray release of this movie.
No. And
this is Peter Jackson's second movie. I'm also a big fan of Bad Taste, which I actually saw first. It was super fucking weird movie. Dead Alive is the cohesive, really ultra cool version. And it does everything a gore hound wants. I'm not a torture film fan. I don't
Neither.
like that stuff.
Yeah.
I like splatter, funny gore, over the top, blood and guts. And this is exactly that movie. And I've never seen anything come close to this movie at all.
Mm.
And it's crazy to think that Peter Jackson made it because he went on to, be so successful. And I dream for the day. I know that he did The Frighteners, which was great, but I would love to see him, somehow go back to some old. He won't though. It's impossible.
Yeah. But I'm the same way. I saw Dead Alive and went back to Bad Taste. Dead Alive was my first of his films, and then Meet the Feebles. And at that point, I was like, I showed that to my brother, who's more like he's kind of a Dungeons and Dragons Star Trek guy. And so I was like, check this out. He was like, what? These are Muppets doing heroin? I was just like, yeah, it's fun, right? No.
It's crazy what a country basically could be like, okay, we're going to give you money.
Yeah.
Because you're doing unique stuff. And then they really go balls to the walls with it and do something so incredibly unique. It seems so rare. I mean, now it seems so rare because no one takes those kind of risks.
Hmm.
But yeah, that Meet the Feebles, that's another huge diamond in the rough. I don't think many people have seen it or know that Peter Jackson made a fucking Muppet movie that is R-rated plus.
Yeah,
Yeah, that one's it's gritty. It's grittier than I liked.
same.
It's the only thing that keeps it from
Yeah, it's
keeps
not
it
as
from
fun.
like yeah, it's not fun. It is raw, but it is for what it is insanely good,
Yeah,
and
I agree.
nothing touches it.
The thing I love
Peter,
about Dead Alive is like, I mean, just like you said with Evil Dead 2, it's so quotable. And
yeah,
like, I mean, the second I showed it to friends, we're going Zingaya, and like,
yeah,
and
yeah,
like when it goes to the claymation with the rat monkey, it's just so charming. And then when it goes into the gross out parts with the porridge and everything, and then it crescendos with just this insanity with on the
yeah.
roof and then the, I mean,
It keeps going. It goes it like the last 20 minutes of the movie is just exactly what you never see, which is like
it's what it
I
should
remember as a
be.
kid being like, why don't they just do just constant gore?
Yeah, just
Like,
make
why
it
can't it
rad.
just be constant gore?
Yeah.
Because it's always like I remember seeing zombie movies when I was little, and it's like, okay, I would literally rent a lot of movies with my cousin, who I watched all these movies with over the summers, and we'd rent a bunch of movies we didn't hadn't seen, and it was like every fucking dry ass zombie film,
Yeah.
Italian zombie film.
Yeah.
And you fast forward to, and there would be this really cool gore part, and then I'm like, fuck this, and I fast forward again, and
Yeah.
maybe there's boobs. No, no, whatever. Now there's a person being ripped apart, and then the movie ends, and it's like, why can't it just be
Give me
what
what I
I'm
want.
looking for?
Yeah,
Yeah.
no, exactly. With that sequence with the lawnmower was like might as well have been like opera singing, crescendo, orchestra, like it was the
Yeah.
pinnacle of everything I wanted to see.
Did you ever see the cut version of it?
I don't believe so.
So I rented the R-rated version of it. That's what they had at Hollywood Video.
Yes.
And they had the R-rated version of it, and I was really excited because I thought I would get to see more. And comparably, it was that scene was just like one, two,
No.
and then it's done.
Ah,
And you're like, wait, why is the whole room a steaming pile of guts
meat.
when nothing happened? And like, I know there's something missing here. And the arm chopping right in the beginning,
Uh-huh.
the arm chop, you don't see the arms come off. It was just a
Ah,
chop and then it cut. It was just like, and it's a painfully dull movie when you cut
right.
out those parts.
Yeah. Oh no, I'm glad I didn't ever see that. That would have been very sad.
It's upsetting.
Yeah. My number five is Phil the Alien from 2004. It's directed, written, and starring Rob Steffenwick. An innocent human like alien crashes to Earth and finds himself alone in the wilds of northern Canada and then begins to be manipulated by people that he meets. It's creative, it's inspirational, it's hilarious, it's very Canadian. Often indies are like one location because that's all they can afford, and you feel the budget. And Rob just takes huge swings with his movies, and he writes all the songs too. It just completely has my heart as far as these like singular filmmaker creative people that are just like, I'm gonna make the thing and I'm gonna do everything I can to make this real. His follow-up movies Suck, I really like a lot. It's like a horror musical, and it's got like it just got a
I've seen the box for Suck.
it's got a terrible release, which is such a bummer because it's got like Alice Cooper, Henry Rollins, Moby's in it. He's in it playing a metal dude that throws raw meat at people, even though he's, in real life he's a staunch vegan, which I think is very funny. It's just really like subversive and clever and creative. Yeah, it's just, and it's very funny. Like he's an alien who becomes an alcoholic essentially, and he
God, why it sounds so fucking familiar that I need to see the cover box.
yeah, he calls it his medicine. He's like, need medicine. And like my friends and I would all say that to each other.
What year was it?
Phil the Aliens 2004.
I think I've seen this. Oh, I've seen the cover for this.
Yeah,
I have not seen this movie, but
probably
now I
in
want to.
Blockbuster, Hollywood Video.
I worked at Blockbuster for over a year.
That's where I rented it. And then I instantly just bought it because my friend Aaron and I, we just watched it over and over and over. So this would lead me towards, well, first of all, I could have put UHF on the list right here because that was pinnacle, but everyone knows Weird Al. So um, The Dark Backward would have been here as well, Adam Rifkin. But if you look up like indie comedies post 2000, you just see the same 20 movies. And it's like big tent pole. I don't know who cuts and pastes these lists for all these movie websites, but it's just ridiculous. There's like all of these great indie comedies that nobody is giving a chance because they're all just rewatching Forgetting Sarah Marshall or whatever. My wife's name's Sarah Marshall, so I hate that movie. So I also wanted to shout out the movie Slow Learners, which is a comedy starring Sarah Burns and Adam Pally, which is 2015. It's about two outcasts that want to be cool. If you don't watch any of it else, just watch the opening 5 minutes. It's some of the funniest situational comedies I've seen in a while. And then the other one is Golden Arm from 2020 about a female arm wrestling circuit. It's got a great cast, very entertaining. And, 2020 was a tough release year for a lot of things with the pandemic and everything. So
Yeah.
I don't think enough people saw Golden Arm, so I just wanted to throw that out there as well. Which brings us to your sixth choice. What do you got?
My sixth choice came shortly after. Another shock that was incredibly quotable and still quotable to this day. Another very abrasive movie by a director that a lot of people don't like. His name is Harmony Korine, and
Oh,
the movie is
yes.
Gummo.
Yes, yes.
Gummo is one of my favorite movies. I think it's by far his best movie. I would argue that most of his other movies aren't that good, but Gummo is really raw and really special
Mm-hmm.
and cut in a way that feels like a collage of a broken life.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I don't know, like the worst part of the Midwest and kids growing up in real shitty. It literally splices someone acting like a hick doing horrible things with hicks doing horrible things
Yeah,
and
yeah.
saying horrible things, and it's just like your head explodes, and then it feels like a music video sometimes, and just the totally random scenes that don't really tell a story but paint this really nice picture
Mm-hmm.
of a nice picture, a really well done
It's
picture of a terrible
memorable.
terrible
Yeah.
terrible picture. But oh, it's so weird and so uncomfortable and so unique, and the music is really good and endearing at times, and it makes you feel something. I remember watching it and it kind of as a gag, where it was just like, this is just a shock movie you put on to like make people feel weird, and then really appreciating every little bit of it, every bit of discomfort and everything. The use of handicapped people,
Mm-hmm.
which I'm touching on a future director, Alejandro Jodorowsky,
Mm-hmm.
also uses a lot of handicapped people. I don't know, there's something that feels so beautiful
Mm-hmm.
in horrible ways, and I feel like Gummo is that for me. I love that movie. It probably wouldn't fly these days.
Yeah, I don't think so. But I think that's okay. Things exist in the time that they're created, and
Of course.
I own Gummo. Yeah, it's probably my favorite of his films. I think Julian Donkey Boy is also personally one of my favorites as well. I think what he does is saying in different degrees about mental health and family in
Yeah.
those two movies, I think are really poignant and powerful. And I think it's a bummer people get caught up on the cat or the kid eating spaghetti in the bath. It's like just the image of it, because I think he's
Yeah.
saying a lot more in those two films. But yeah,
I
it's a
can
great
say,
pick.
touching back on that too, I can say that I think I learned a lot as an artist from Gummo, and the way Harmony kind of was just showing you pictures to kind of paint a larger picture. And I think I use that a lot in my own work, where I'm just, the story isn't as important as the vibe, as the theme, as the connections that you make yourself
Mm-hmm.
between these things that feel like they have significance, but you're not directly told how they go together and why. There's a
Yeah.
lot of unspoken stuff in this movie that is so direct.
Mm-hmm. I mean, maybe this kind of plays into your work possibly too. I feel like in Gummo, and since I mentioned Julian Donkey Boy as well, he's not doing hand holding. And a lot of movies are telling you what's going to
Yeah,
happen, how you're supposed to feel, and you don't like tutorials in your games. And I
yeah,
think that there's something to be said about that, because I like the same thing. I don't like the hand holding.
yeah.
Great. Well, my sixth pick kind of fits into the same sort of tone. It's a movie that I've done an episode on. I talk about it all the time. It's The Reflecting Skin. It's one of my favorite films of all time. It is my favorite film of all time. My wife got me the
It is a good movie.
poster right over there. It's just the prime example of my love for like the unexplained, for symbolism, for death of innocence films. It feels to me the closest to art, and I didn't discover it on its own. So what I'm actually going to talk about is Drowning by Numbers by Peter Greenaway. This is from 1988. It's three generations of women that all share the same problem, marriage woes, and they want to put an end to it. I love Peter Greenaway's movies. My wife does too. She did the same thing that I did when I was young and saw it, where you got out a book and wrote out all the different games that they play in the movie because it does a bunch of stuff with numbers, and it's just super. I watched just a clip of it the other day because I have it on VHS, but my VCR is not plugged in right now. And just the camera movement in it is really incredible. I don't know how they did a crane shot that's on YouTube. It's it's cool. It's one of those things where you hear like the director says, "Oh, in this character whose name starts with S, there's 100 items in their bedroom that start with S." It's not something that's part of the plot, but it's just something that exists in this movie, and I love those kinds of details. I couldn't tell you completely what a lot of the Greenaway films are about, but I just love the feel of it. When I came across these quote unquote art house movies, they just like blew me away because like you said there's not like this hand holding that's happening in it.
Yeah.
You're not told how to interpret it, and that led me towards experimental films like 1959's Water Baby Moving by Stan Brakhage, which is just a birthing video, but the way that it's shot is so weird, and it has like this VHS 90s aesthetic that became very popular, but it's made in 1959. It's just so weird. It led me to Lynch stuff, to Andy Warhol's Dracula. Peter Greenaway's Drowning by Numbers like is responsible for me finding my favorite movie, and so I wanted to put that on the list. I never hear people talk about Greenaway outside of The Pillow Book because you see Ewan McGregor's dick a lot.
I'm completely unfamiliar with him.
Oh, so Drowning by Numbers is my favorite. Belly of an Architect is also really good. Um, that era of Greenaway is like that's kind of my favorite stuff. Later on, he does kind of I would say more narratively strong films that are easier to interpret. I would say, but also if you want to see Ewan McGregor's penis a lot, watch Pillow Book. So no judgment. I watched it and referenced it ever since. Actually, it's an impressive piece of work.
His penis?
Yeah, it's huge. It's big.
Oh,
Yep.
I wouldn't have thought.
Well, you don't have to. You can just watch Pillow Book. That's not my pick, though. It's Peter Greenaway's Drowning by Numbers.
Your pick wasn't his penis?
No, that's my seventh pick.
Well, now I'm gonna fucking just Google his penis
Yeah.
and see. I want to see. I keep hearing things about what's his face from the Antichrist. The
Willem Dafoe.
Yeah, Willem Dafoe's penis was supposedly so huge that they needed a stunt cock.
Oh,
because it was jarring how abnormally large it was, and that people would think something else, like that this is saying something else.
the symbolism of his giant penis.
Yeah, so the penis in the movie is not his penis.
I feel like any penis of William Dafoe would be jarring. I just feel like anything you saw, you'd just be like, whoa.
And it smiled.
Yeah.
And it smiled.
Yes. Have you seen the 1989 movie Marquis? It's about Marquis de Sade, and it's like live actors, but they have animal faces. And
he talks to his penis? Yes, I have seen that. Yeah, it's a puppet, right? The little penis puppet.
Yes.
That movie is strange.
It's so it's so weird. Yeah, okay. Anyway.
Oh, okay. So we're going through the art. We're going into art house. We're getting into college here.
Yes.
I didn't go to college, but I was that age.
Perfect.
I lived in a dorm house type situation with a bunch of snobs, UCSC snobs.
Is that the animal control era?
Nope.
Pre.
That transitioned into the animal control
Okay.
era. This was the precursor to the Gish era. And I lived in this place. They called it the Rig House, and it was just littered with college kids. And me and Danielle lived in a room in it, and it had like Rottweilers that would just like shit everywhere, and if you accidentally opened the door, they would run out and kill a cat, and then it was just fucking complete and utter chaos. We had this girl who was all about shock, and I'm not shocked, and so nothing really worked. So it's like the day after we moved in, we came downstairs and she was just completely nude and sitting on a stool, and she's like, yeah, I walk around naked, get used to it. My wife, or then girlfriend, was like, don't you have ringworm? Like, her whole thing is she had ringworm, but she wasn't going to take something because she didn't believe in taking it, even though it's not a worm, it's a fungus. I don't know, but she had ringworm all over her, and we're like, that's how
spreads.
You spread.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh. Or she'd be the person, if I was cooking meat, and she'd be like, I smell cooking flesh.
She sounds fun.
Yeah, she got fun though. She got fun.
Oh, okay.
Every woman, it was mostly women in that house, and they were all gay, and they all got married to men.
Huh.
So I don't know what happened there.
That's a weird story. I didn't think it was going to go there.
It was a house full of interesting people. One of the most interesting was a friend of mine. He was from Mexico. His name's Manuel. And he's the type of person who'd be like, here's my PlayStation. Take it away from me. I can't. I
Oh,
can't have this in my house. Take this away from me. I'm learning guitar. And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about, Manuel? And he's like, just take it. And then he'll like cave and he'll come back and he's like, just let me play some Grand Theft Auto because that was that time. And he's like, fuck it, I'm selling it. And he would sell it. And he would put it on Craigslist and he'd sell it. And you're like, what the fuck? And then he became like the most amazing fucking guitarist in like a matter of a month. And then he got carpal tunnel syndrome from practicing so much and then stopped playing guitar. He's just the person who could do anything. Like he would just set his mind to something and he would just do it. He was an amazing person. He was also the type of guy that if anybody would give him any drug, he would take it. And without question, he would eat it. Boom, give it. I remember, hey, what is in this freezer, in the communal freezer, way in the back of the freezer? There was like 5 sugar cubes.
nice.
And the owner's like, I think that's acid. And Manuel fucking eats it. Nothing happened.
Oh.
But things did happen sometimes.
It sounds like it'd be hard to tell with Manuel.
It was a wild ride full of interesting and fun things. But during this wild ride, I rented a movie called El Topo.
Yes.
And El Topo became an eye opener for me as an artist. I was late to the game. I didn't know about this film.
I didn't either.
And this was even like Gummo was considered an art house film. I didn't know what art house films were. I thought it was a weird movie, but it was a profound movie. And it was doing things that I had not seen done in a movie before. And it was magical. That's all I can say. A lot of his movies feel magical. They feel artistically explosive. It feels like you're wandering around in this person's creative juices.
Mm-hmm.
It's a fucking samurai movie. Like it's about a gunslinger who is persuaded by his love interest to become the greatest gunslinger that ever existed. And there's all these legendary gunslingers that are basically samurai that have this special technique that makes them better than everybody else. And the thing that makes El Topo unique is that he cheats. He cheats.
Yeah.
That's it. He kills them because he's cheating the whole time. And he just breaks the rules every single time and he cheats. And then the movie splits and he becomes this enlightened being. And then it's a whole other movie where he's taking care of a bunch of deformed people in a mountain and trying to get them to live. He's bringing stuff up to them so they're okay. And then the end of the movie is a bunch of severely handicapped people being gunned down by a bunch of happy rich people.
Yeah.
It's just out of control. And a lot of people are like, Holy Mountain is even more nuts visually. And I agree, but there's something really special about El Topo to me. It just does a lot of really cool stuff. And it's a movie that I will rewatch often. I really like Santa Sangre. That's my number 2 of his.
Yeah.
I like that more than Holy Mountain, but I love all of his movies for the most part, even the weird new ones where he's naked and rubbing all over people.
Yeah. I'm the same. I'll watch all of them, but my first was El Topo as well. And I saw it because it was in the conversation with Pink Flamingos.
Pink Flamingos, that should have been on my list.
Yeah,
that's another big one.
As a midnight movie, and I was like, I've never heard of this. I'd only seen Westerns with John Wayne or like Silverado, stuff like that. Maybe even Unforgiven at that. No, not by then. But, and so I was like, I don't really like Westerns. I don't care about this. And then I watched El Topo and I was like, I like this kind of Western. Like, I'll watch this.
And you'll never find another one.
No. And it's like, it's so great. And then I saw Holy Mountain and I was like, this is wonderful too. But I think, yes, Santa Sangre is probably my second favorite as well. As far as like something I'd put on to watch. Holy Mountain is full of beautiful visuals and stuff, but it's a lot of those lizards on small buildings and things, and I just keep thinking like those poor lizards.
Like, a lot of exploding lizards and paper mache Jesuses.
Yes, it's a lot of that.
Yeah, Santa Sangre is special though. Santa Sangre is very watchable. I mean, it feels like a retelling of Psycho, which spoiler. It's very unique. It's approachable. If you want to show somebody one of his movies, you probably wouldn't put on Holy Mountain, or maybe you want to go for it. I don't know.
Yeah. But. If you want him to like the director, I would start with Santa Sangre or El Topo for sure. My number 7 is The Wizard of Speed and Time. This is from 1988. So in 1979, Mike Jitlov shoots a short on 16 millimeter. It's basically he's a special effects guy, and he can do like the Roadrunner running really fast effect. So he expands that short into a feature length in 1988. He does all the effects. He directs it. He writes it. He edits it. Much like the Phil the Alien 2004 situation, I love these things that these people are like, I'm going to make this happen no matter
Yeah.
what. And so a Hollywood filmmaker, Mike, makes a short for an evil film studio, so it's like self-referential. And then unbeknownst to him, the producer has placed a bet of 25,000 that he won't come up with anything of use. Luckily, the film creator gets the help of his friends. We had the promo tape, and so the promo tapes sometimes would have the box with like a punch out, so you couldn't sell the tape. But sometimes you get them and it's just the black tape with a white sticker on it that's been typed. And that's what this said. It said Wizard of Speed and Time. I had no idea what it was. I was 10, 11 at the time. And I just watched it a lot. It's very likable. It's very endearing.
You said it was 88?
88, yeah. It's a singular person wearing all the hats. The fact the story centers around effects, I really loved that. I've chased down movies ever since then that are like that. Like I would consider Little Odick that way. The Jan Spankmeyer made. It's 2000 about an infertile couple who adopts a stump that eats people. That's my jam. We Are the Strange by M. Strange from 2007. Kind of a similar thing where it's just like, oh, you haven't seen that one? I think you'd really like that.
We Are the Strange?
We Are the Strange by M and then dot D-O-T Strange. It's from 2007. My brother-in-law and I quote it all the time. There's a part that just keeps saying, I hunger. And it's very good. And 2018's The Wolf House, or even Mad God that came out this last year. Did you see that one, Mad God?
I'm out of the loop for a lot of recent stuff,
Okay, yeah.
especially if it's not stuff that I can watch in front of the kids.
Oh yeah, yeah. You can't really.
I've got a stack of fucking movies right now. It's like all the
I
good
do
horror
too.
films of the past 3 years that I can't.
Yeah,
I can't.
Mad Dog's a trip. I highly recommend that. It's on Shudder right now, probably on Blu-ray too. Anyway, this is a family film. It's definitely responsible for me growing an interest in singular creations, like we've talked about. Eric Fournier, that did Chez Saint John.
Spoiler.
Oh, great.
That's my next.
Oh, great. Well, then let's just go into your next because I don't want to talk about it since you're going to talk about it.
In the early 2000s, I came across this YouTube video called Turkey Day.
Yes.
And it was this mannequin person wandering around their room, spastically talking in a sped up voice. I was like, what the fuck is this? And I did some searching and they had a website, saintjohn.com, which was like a schizophrenic person. I've had a lot of schizophrenic friends who made zines back in the day. And they would do weird collages. And, I think you might know what I'm talking about.
Yeah.
It's overload, info overload.
Mm-hmm.
And the website was like this. And there was an ordered DVD. And it was probably the first DVD that I ordered from a website online back in the day. And when I got it, I was floored. And I don't know if you own the DVD, but you should, because the DVD has so much hidden shit in it. I didn't even realize it because I would play it so often. If you just leave it playing, like it would start playing hidden videos.
Yeah.
They're just riddled with chaos. And essentially it's this guy who's a drag queen. It's a total drag show. Like it's a total bit. And it's this dude who's dressed up like a mannequin and telling this disjointed story of somebody who is obsessed with their beauty and they're just become a plastic person.
Yeah.
And
it's a character that Eric created called Chez Saint John that was a supermodel who was hit by a train or a car and then
was there anything official there? I thought it was just intentionally vague, but I guess maybe there could have been something official. There's always alluding to like,
oh, if you look it up now online, I'm pretty sure it says that he created the supermodel who was disfigured and rebuilt herself with mannequin parts, is what I read.
Sure.
I thought it was just always like I didn't know a backstory.
I don't know.
This is literally the only time I've talked to another human about this. Someone
has taken over the IP. I don't know exactly
really?
What's going on. Somebody made a documentary who's kind of taken over the IP, and I think they've kind of pushed some stuff in there, but I don't know. The documentary wasn't where.
Yeah, I saw something on YouTube. Like I get excited about these things because I can't make anyone I know watch it. Like there's just a lot I have that I just don't talk to other people about.
Shay is something you can put and people will just go like,
yeah.
And then you're like, what the fuck?
Yeah, just the voice
it
itself
is so full.
Crazy.
It is like I don't know how long it took for him to make all the stuff that's on the DVD because it went beyond the DVD a little bit, but then he died. I think he was quite ill. He's a drinker.
Yeah.
It's very obvious when you watch it.
Yeah.
It is so fast, it's so rapid, and it's so consistently disjointed.
Yep.
Like he stumbled upon this, and it's like, I'm going to flesh this thing out, and I'm going to ride this creative wave. And it feels like this cohesive chaos throughout, and it never lets up. There's never a drop in the consistency, and he just keeps doing weirder and weirder stuff. And it's all weird in a way that's there's nothing else like it. No. And a lot of kids these days are like, it's like a creepy pasta now. Like Chez St. John is a creepy pasta, and it's like this one weird video, and they always show like the hand thing, which wasn't even a good bit.
Yes,
but
right. Not the part where he's like burns his face with the tanning lamp or whatever.
Yeah, that was from Turkey Day.
Yeah.
Shay's got a little doll named Kiki who has superpowers.
This is so weird to hear someone else talk about this.
It is a phenomenal fucking DVD, and it is such a piece to have. It is such. Yeah. I have two because I was very paranoid about. I played one of them so much, and it got handled so much by different people that I needed a backup, and they are different slightly. The printing is different.
The Triggers collection.
Yeah, it's highly, highly, highly recommended. Great artistic chaos. It is mind-bogglingly inspired and super cool.
Yeah. That's so great. I was sneaking it in just to talk about it, and then I love that you were like, "No, that's one of my picks." So I was like,
"That's the next pick. That is
good.
The order." Right when I started making Gish, which was my first actual game that I could charge for, I would bring that in and play that for the guys. They didn't like it.
That's so funny.
But I was obsessed with it. I put it on in the background until they would tell me to turn it off, and I just kept watching it. I watched it so much, and it is incredibly quotable.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I had a friend who was schizophrenic, and he would do zines when I was doing zines and stuff. And then I just would spend a lot of time with him because he would just, he would get different types of drugs to try to stabilize mental health, and he would get creative with the things he would try that were more like street level. And it was really hard, but there's also something comforting about Chez St. John because it reminds me of my buddy and the chaos that was our friendship. But wonderful pick. My 8th pick is what I would call my horror pick. So Phantasm, Hellraiser 2, Night of the Creeps, Critters 2, and Pieces. Any single one of those could be my pick for this because those films, for me, are like horror perfection. They're comfort watches. I can watch them over and over and over and over. That's where my love of horror started, which led me to Mirror Mirror from 1990. It's about an antique mirror that gives a student, played by Rainbow Harvest, black magic powers to punish her classmates who torment her. It's really fun. It's hard to find. I have a DVD of it, but there's a sequel as well, but I really like the first one. And I think Rainbow Harvest is really great. If people look her up, it looks like she's dressed like Lydia in Beetlejuice, but she just happened to be goth in the same sort of flavor. But Mirror Mirror is great. And then I wanted to ask you if you've seen Vacations of Terror 2.
I don't believe so.
Okay.
Am I writing this down?
I think you're going to want to. It's Pedro Galindo III. He made a couple different movies. It's from 1991. The first movie is kind of like a haunted shack kind of thing. It's like not a lot happens. Nobody, I think, dies even in it. But the second one has the same sort of doll from the first one that then becomes cloth and then rips open, and it's a full-on goblin that has telekinesis, and he just runs around like making stuff move with his mind. It's so thoroughly entertaining. Vacations of Terror 2. It's hard to find, but if you look on the right websites, you can find it with the English dub, but the YouTube version is only in Spanish. Pretty good transfer, but Vacations of Terror 2 is very entertaining, and it kind of reminds me of the work of Alvaro Passeri. Do you know who this guy is?
What do they do?
He directed Plankton, The Golden Grain, Mummy Theme Park, Flight.
No.
Okay. So this guy, you're going to want to look up him. Alvero, and then the last name is Passeri, Passeri. His website, so he made these 5 movies or so, and then he just got into taxidermy robot animal bands, so he would make these like a snake that plays the flute and a rabbit that's playing, and he would write the music and then conduct the orchestra of these taxidermied animal musicians.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so definitely look up his website. I forgot to write it down right here. But my favorite of his movies would probably be Plankton, which is takes place on like a ship, and someone eats like bad fish, I believe, and then they start to mutate, kind of like The Thing, but on a very different level. And then Mummy Theme Park, I think you'll find very interesting too. I think all of his movies are on his website, but it's like
How old are these movies?
these are like 2000s, like
Okay.
maybe a little bit in the 90s. No, I think Plankton's like 2005. Definitely when like he got his hands on some like CG stuff in the very beginning. So wild swings with the effects that makes it thoroughly entertaining. But he's one of those directors that when we were initially talking back and forth, I was like, "Oh yeah, I gotta find out if you've seen these things because they are." I mean, I've seen some of your collection. I think it would belong right in there.
I can guarantee the majority of the things that you're mentioning will find their way in
Oh,
there
great, good.
shortly after this.
What is your ninth pick?
My ninth pick is a curveball. Not too much of a curveball. It also stems from YouTube. It is a series of music videos by an artist named Tonetta. Do you know who Tonetta is?
No.
You should dive into this.
Okay, I'm excited.
Tonetta is probably 75 or 76 now. Canadian man, recluse, who had a nervous breakdown. I believe he had surgery, had a nervous breakdown after that. And then his wife left him, took the kids, and he started to be like super prolific in his music. And he started out in the 80s making kind of just really good music. Like it didn't exist in the world. He didn't put it out there.
Yeah.
It was just, he would make music videos at his mom's place that he was staying at the time and record himself. He has an obsession with his dick. And it's so like, you always see him with a shirt and it's like an imprint of his dick on the shirt. Unique fellow. And then as time passed and he moved into his apartment, he's also a nudist. He's always naked. And he also likes to cross dress, and he cross dresses as his alter ego, his female alter ego, Tonetta. And he dresses in a mask, which I own. It's over there.
You have the actual mask?
Yeah, it's been damaged because he brought it into the shower once with him.
Oh, yeah.
But so he made literally hundreds of music videos. And the majority of what he's known for is just very sexually charged. I don't know. Usually involving his alter ego, his female self, or him being into his female self. And I think one of the first ones I saw was a video called Big Rig, which is an old song of his, and it wasn't really that sexual. It was just a good song. And then I started to see his other stuff, and it was like weird. It's like this weird, creepy kind of older guy, but he's in shape and he's flexing in really awkward poses and really weird contorting movements. And sometimes he's wearing a mask, and sometimes he's wearing female clothes, and sometimes he's showing his ass and whatever else. And as I went down this rabbit hole, I'm piecing together this story. You get this picture of who this guy is, that he fucking hates his wife, his ex-wife. He fucking hates his ex-wife. He mourns for the loss of his brother who killed himself. All these like weird songs that are really good in the most lo-fi artistic way possible. And I was so in awe of him, and he would upload the videos himself to YouTube. And sometimes he would put his phone number on it. So I called him one day. He's a really nice guy, a really true artist. All he does is make art all day long. That's it. He's one of the most pure artists I've ever met in my life. And all he does is make art. And I long to be him, eventually, when I can shave off anything that has to do with finances off of anything that I do, I don't give a fuck anymore. And I'm just going to make whatever feels good. He's just leaving his legacy. It's just painting this picture. And I'm talking to him and I'm asking these questions like, what's with this fucking, there's a song about hoping somebody dies in their sleep of a stroke. It's called Death Wish. I'm what the fuck's what's up with Death Wish? And he's like, some relative of his cheated him out of a lottery ticket. Okay. And they never spoke again. And there's a lot of these, like, that's it. It's like all of these blips where he's like pissed about something and then he writes about it, or he's having a fantasy about something and he writes about it. And is always a music video, and the music video is always different, and it's always odd, and it's always unique. And he dances from just jokingly, stupidly sexual. There's this one song called Report Card, and the whole thing is like about, I'm going to get my report card and blah, 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 and then being seduced by the teacher. And at the end, he gets an F for fuck. It's just hilarious stuff. Like it's just like, and you can tell he's really inspired by John Lennon. He writes a lot of songs about John Lennon. He loves the Beatles, and he's just a really good guy. I'm like, well, how do you upload it? And he's like, I pay somebody to upload these videos because I don't have a computer. And I'm like, I'm getting you a fucking computer. And I sent him a laptop, and he just started uploading shit like crazy. Whoa. And then he started uploading pornography on YouTube, and then he started uploading his own dick. Like, I think and then he got banned from Vimeo. When he got banned from YouTube, then he went to Vimeo, and then he realized that you could upload whatever you want to Vimeo, and they did eventually ban him. He goes, "Hey, everybody, want to see my biggest fan?" And it's a fan without the top on it, and he puts his dick in it.
Oh.
And whacks it.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, and that was it. So yeah, it's raw. He's raw. And he doesn't give a fuck.
Where do I find it?
You just Google Tonetta.
Okay.
I'm not the only one. There are many fans of his that have collected, because his stuff gets deleted. Like
right.
He told me that he made hundreds of YouTube accounts, and each of them he would just start uploading them once I got him the laptop. He didn't even have internet. I taught him how to leech off of other people's internet that had open connections. And then he'd go to Tim Hortons or whatever and upload whatever else. Yeah, he would just get his shit banned, but then people would take his stuff and then put it on a channel. So there's a lot of dedicated channels that have a lot of the best of, but you can only find him now on Facebook. And I don't even think you can add him, because I think he's at max friends at this point. And he's but you never know, because he'll always have a falling out with someone, right. And then he'll be like, fuck this. It'll be picture this person will say, fuck him. And it'll be just like, fuck this fucking liar. And and then, you know, there'll be room for another person to come in because that person's been kicked off the boat.
And then they wrote a song about him, probably.
He's a person that's like, I call him like he's my father, and I'm like, how are you doing? What do you need? Let me send it to you. And if he needs a new guitar, a new 8-track recording device, I send him whatever he needs. And then he'll send me these care packages of art. I think I'm the biggest collector of all of his. I have so much of his art. Some of it's actual feces, some of it's actual. He makes cum nipples.
So
he gets nipples. He gets these nipples, and he fills them with resin mixed with cum.
Uh-huh.
And then he pulls them out of the nipple, and then he goes, "These are cum nipples." And then he paints them. He paints them red, and he puts them on like a little keychain, and he sells them. I have his teeth. He got a gold grill at some point in time. His teeth are all messed up.
Yeah.
What he has left of them. He gave me his grill, his gold grill. I don't know. The guy's just fucking mind blowing. It's one of the most recent inspirations of mine. I met him about 10 years ago. He's somebody that I continuously draw from when it comes to be like, this person, this is an artist. This is a real artist. He can't not be an artist. He just embodies it. It doesn't matter what he's doing something. His videos are a treasure trove, and I highly recommend you dive in, but it is infinite. Okay. I have not seen all of his stuff. I don't even know where it ends. And that's what's up? My number 9?
Number 9, yeah. Tonetta. Well, here's a sentence I've never said to another adult. How many cum nipples do you own?
I don't own any cum nipples, okay. But I do own multiple. He sent me multiple sheets that says Tonetta, and it's in brown paint. And I'm like, is this shit? And I'm like, do I smell it? Like, it smells weird.
Oh, no.
It doesn't smell like shit, but it smells off.
Yeah.
And it kind of smells like if you're scrounging around the railroad tracks and there's like cardboard on the ground.
Yeah.
And it kind of smells like that, which I think is human feces that has been kind of washed away a little bit. Huh. Yeah, no, it was shit.
Okay.
I own a few shit signatures, but no cum nipples.
Oh, man. Definitely an episode for my mom. So, okay, my number 9 pick is Derek Jarman. I love his work. My favorite band is Coil. They did the soundtrack for a few of his films. The Angelic Conversation is fantastic. But I wanted to talk about 1993's Wittgenstein. It's a dramatization in the modern theatrical style of the life of the philosopher Ludwig Wittgenstein. It's Jarman's last film with images. His final film is just a blue screen because he had lost a lot of his eyesight due to progression of AIDS. I really love Blue. It's very poignant. The idea of a filmmaker making a movie when he can't shoot is so deeply sad, and that is like a beanbag chair comfort for me. I'm like, give it to me. I own all the books about Derek Jarman's life. There's a lot of them. I was just obsessed at an early age with this person and his art. I have VHS tapes of just the projections he did for Pet Shop Boys concerts. I have a lot of stuff that he's done, and he's just someone that means a lot to me, so I had to put Derek Jarman on the list. Not for everybody, but I think Wittgenstein is really watchable. Whereas, like, the angelic conversation, I mean, when I would have like Friday night movie parties, I would put stuff on for my friends, and they would just be like, "What is this?" And it's like a whole film of just collage and noise and overlapping images of water and gay men, and it was just like we'd never seen anything like it in my little town, and I just love it. So that's my number 9 pick, Wittgenstein. What's your number 10, the final pick?
It's going to sound cheesy because it's so over the top and overdone now, and it's so cliche at this point. But my number 10, and the most recent movie that I've watched, I watch it multiple times a year, is The Room. And there's something about that movie that goes way beyond that it's a bad movie. It goes way beyond, Rocky Horror Picture-esque, midnight movie bullshit. I can't fucking stand it, dude. Like, I have met Tommy multiple times, and he is such a phenomenal person to meet and talk to and listen to him speak, because that's what I like about the movie. It's such an alien. It's like such an alien person that made this, and they made it in such a weird way. And it says a lot more than I think most people realize about this person. It's endearing in this really terrible, it's like your embarrassing poem zine from when you're 14, 15
Oh yeah.
years old,
Yeah.
and it's just so over the top. I'm so put upon. I'm going to kill myself and everybody will suffer. I don't know, man. It has made a lasting impression on me. It is comforting to me. I don't know what it is. I can't put my finger on it, but it is something that I watch when I'm feeling down because it just brightens my day, and it makes me feel like, how cool was it that such an odd person got to be able to have their voice heard? And that sounds so snobby and so but it's true. So I'll go to the midnight showings. I won't go to see the movie because I cannot stand being in a theater full of people doing dumb shit that's not funny. And
The spoons.
I know it's just not fun. And it's not the way to watch the movie. But he will do basically fucking stand up. He will go up there and he will be like, okay, what questions do you have? And he'll fucking riff. And he'll riff in this most alien way. It's just so oddball and so unique. I don't know. I really love it. And I love bad movies, period. And I'm also a huge fan of Neil Breen.
I was just gonna say, are you a Breen guy?
Oh, big time.
Yeah.
I've been a Breen fan since Double Down. I scrounged that shit up. I have multiple signed copies of all of his stuff. I talked to him online. He's so weird, dude. This guy's way weirder than you'd think. And I still to this day don't know if he understands what he's doing or not, or why people like it. He's abrasive in that way.
I don't think he does.
He's kind of mad if he'll post stuff like, I went and talked at this prestigious college, everybody clapped, that sort of thing. And it's just like,
no.
And then he'll say, and I responded to this on Twitter too. Then he'll say something like, it wasn't filmed. So there's no proof that you can say otherwise.
Well, Twisted Pair was filmed, so people can just watch the trailer for that and make up their own mind on what.
Yeah, but he's a unique one, but he's not as endearing as Tommy Wiseau. It'll never happen again.
Yeah, no, it's too different now. My favorite, we're talking about kind of vanity project movies, but when I saw Get Even or Get Even the first time.
Yeah. I just saw that recently.
That was, for the first time?
Yeah.
That's awesome. I mean, that blew my mind. And then now that we have a Blu-ray that has the champagne and bullets cut and everything, like, my wife has some friends that are predominantly associated with, like, they just watch mainstream movies. So whenever I show them something, I'm like, I'm going to show you something that you haven't seen before. And, I put that on and they could not believe it. And my wife walked in the room and she's like, why are you watching this? This is terrible. And I was like, I know what you're thinking, but they kind of understood the oddity of, like, him being in control of all of this and the star of it. And I just love that, because what you're feeling is the intent of that person. Like, The Room is what it's supposed to be, because Tommy was like, this is it. This is the movie. And same thing with Get Even or the Breen stuff, is it's just like they're in control, and the idea that you're seeing what they wanted you to see. Like, it's not like an accident, It
does dance into the outsider artist type stuff, which I absolutely love.
Yeah, same.
Yeah, it's hard to like say that though, because I still to this day will talk to people and they'd be like, some people just won't get why I like things, and they'll be like, why do you like making fun of these people? And I'm like, I would never make fun of
No,
these
no,
people.
no.
I absolutely love these people. Like, there's nothing. I'm not mocking it, and a lot of people just don't get it. Like, I don't know. It's just I long for the unique perspective of others.
Same.
I want to experience things that we've all experienced the basic bullshit, you
Hmm.
know? And I want to experience what it is to be another person. Sometimes that is only achieved through vanity projects,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to movies, where I'm the lead role, I'm the director, and I'm so cool.
Yeah. And
You know?
like in Gadavan, it's like I wrote this song for this bath scene, so this scene is going to be as long as the song. I just love it. I love that choice. It's just everything
Yeah.
about it is. That's an excellent, excellent pick, and kind of connects to mine. My number 10 is Humanoid from 1979. It would be easy for me to pick Arena because I watched that a ton when I was a kid, but I wouldn't say I'm a huge sci-fi fan, but I like quote unquote weird sci-fi, the way it relates to like successful things. So clearly this film, Enzo Castellari and Aldo Lado saw Star Wars and they were like, yeah, we could do Star Wars. So they make Humanoid. It is not Star Wars. It is so strange, the decision that they're made in this. So basically, a guy's hoping to overthrow his brother, who's a ruler of Metropolis, and then that's the evil Grawl, who enlists the help of the insane Dr. Craspin, who's invented a chemical capable of turning an ordinary person into the perfect soldier. Only in this case, it's Richard Kiel who played Jaws in the James Bond movies, and in the beginning of
Oh,
the
yeah. Okay.
yeah, in the beginning of the film, he's kind of like our Han Solo, and he has a robot dog instead of R2D2, and he's flying around, and then the ray hits him, and it just makes him growl. So he just like growls and walks around throwing people. Is basically his specialty. It's so bizarre, and like they have a Darth Vader. He looks just like Darth Vader, but like his mask looks like he's more into kinky stuff. So he's like this sadomasochistic Darth Vader looking dude, and there's like a telepathic kid, and there's like kind of like a sand people Jawa situation. It's just every little bit of it. You're like, yeah, we get it. You saw Star Wars, but like this is not Star Wars. And
But I really liked Star
yeah,
Wars.
and I love that so much. I'm not a Star Wars person, but this thing that's like clearly a riff on it, I can't get enough of this thing. And
Yeah.
I put it on just the other day just to check the disc, see how the quality was on something that I tracked down, and I ended up watching the whole thing because I just couldn't turn it off. It's like a kids movie, but then there's a scene in the middle, or maybe 40% into it, where there's just a naked lady in a glass case with 1,000 needles in front of her and behind her, stabbing her so that this lady can use her blood to stay young. And you're just like, why? This is the only part of the movie that's like that. It's just like, wait, what? It's a G rated other than that. It's so bizarre. I could have easily selected Hands of Steel or Trancers or Future Force 1 and 2. Those are all movies I watched a ton either. Just like what's called, quote unquote schlocky future movies. I really like it. It's very close to post apocalyptic, but different. Yeah, but that's my last pick, Humanoid from 1979. If I knew where it was, I'd show you the cover because it's pretty awesome.
I think I have seen the cover
Oh,
box, and
okay.
I think I actually do own it, but I have not seen it.
Oh, put
I
it
hope
on
I'm not the
sometime when
only
you're
one who has
working.
this like the bottom racks of my DVD shelves are all the ones they're sideways. That's how I know that I've never seen them,
Nice.
and they're just sitting there for next COVID.
I'm always tracking stuff down and then it just kind of makes a stack. The worst is the stuff that doesn't have a case. Because then, like a week
Yeah,
later, I'm like, what are these 30 things in paper envelopes? And then I'm like, oh my God, I gotta watch all these.
you need to buy the blank bulk DVD cases, and then you need one of those little typing things that prints out the little sticker. That's what I have.
Oh, that's smart. That's
Yeah.
good. Yeah,
I have lots of like weird obscure collections. Like you can't do that on television collection
oh,
and stuff like
amazing.
that. I'm determined to make it look nice, and I try to print some stuff out, but worst comes to worst, I just stick a sticker on it, turn it sideways, and pop it in there.
Yeah, I should do that. I really should. It's a travesty. Some of the things that I've.
Some are too good to not.
Right.
You need to put them there. They need to be there.
Yeah.
Neil Breen only has one movie that he doesn't put out on just a jewel case CD, and that looks terrible.
Which one is it?
The only one that he ever released on Blu-ray that isn't just in that case that you can get on Amazon, I think, is a Pass Through, which is a good one.
I don't think I've seen that one.
It's his attempt at David Lynch.
Oh, wow.
Super deep.
Okay. I'd love
Super
it.
deep.
Gotta see that.
I think it's his second best. Double Down is hard to beat.
Yes.
and it gets dry as it goes, but he's still an alien, and it's still fun to
I think
watch what he does.
Twisted Pair is really fascinating.
That's bonkers. Yeah, when we always do like a showing with my friends whenever a new one comes out, and everybody's like, "Hello, did you see?" I purchased his movie retrospective, which is like an 8 disc, dry as fuck, like boring as hell. I watched every bit of it, and there's one fucking little bit in the middle where he like references himself, where he's like throwing books, and he's like, "No books, no books," and then he like looks at the screen, and he's like, hey, I know you like this.
Oh,
That's the one time he breaks this drab character where he's just talking technical jargon and explaining how his movies are made. And it's like,
yes.
dude, it's 8 hours long.
Oh my
It
gosh.
goes on forever, but I own it.
You own it.
He prints the fucking CDs too. Like it's a quality printed thing, but then he never puts them in a DVD sleeve or nothing.
Yeah.
Just bullshit.
I only know one other person that's into his films, and he unfortunately passed away this last year. And he was the person who would come to our house. His name was Yohei, and he would sharpen our knives. And he was from Japan, and he would sharpen the blades. And while he would hand sharpen all the blades for our blenders and all the stuff that we for our hot sauce business, we would talk movies. And he would talk about the bad Hallmark Christmas movies that he saw, Breen films, and I miss him so much because every time he'd come over, he would tell me about one that he saw finally, and we would, yeah, it was always a fun conversation of just like broken English and trying to understand what each other is saying, and it was just so perfect that it was about Breen. But yeah, now he's gone, but we'll always have Twisted Pair and Double Down. Oh, well, there you have it. Over 20 things that have contributed to our tastes. Edmund, anything you wanted to throw out there at the end here?
I have scraps.
Yes.
And the hardest one, there are two. The hardest one to chop off this
Yes.
was the Unsolved Mysteries intro.
Okay.
The Unsolved Mysteries intro is one of the greatest things on television. And I think it's just the music. But the music is so fucking disturbing to me. It eclipses the show. I don't know if you ever go watch Unsolved Mysteries. It's actually quite watchable.
There's a new series, I think.
It's not what it was.
It's okay.
There's something special about their reenactments, which are so bad it's good at times and also interesting. But that intro, just gave me fucking chills as a kid.
Yeah.
And it is such an impactful thing. That was a hard one too. And then the other one is the Hell in a Cell match with Mick Foley. I don't know. Did you ever watch wrestling?
I only saw wrestling like in the 80s.
Okay. There was a match. My only real wrestler that I loved was Mick Foley, and he had a character called Mankind, and he did a wrestling match where he basically said, what we're going to do is we're going to go to the top of this 20-foot cage and you're going to throw me off. If I can't get up, then that's the end of it. It's a spectacle.
Okay.
And if I can get up, then we're going to try to continue the match. And then they just kind of riff. And he almost didn't make the fall, but he did dislocated his shoulder, bruised a kidney, got up, went back up on top. And then there was an accident. He was supposed to slide down through the mesh on the top of the cell. Again, like probably a 15-foot drop with the thing there. And when he got slammed on it, it broke and he fell and knocked himself out, knocked a tooth out, just was like basically unconscious. They had to stop the whole match. It was this huge thing, but then he got back up again and basically just was beaten in this half-conscious state. And it's such a showman. And that was a hugely impactful bit of, I had the DVD, I still have the DVD. It's a spectacle and it stuck out to me. And that was another one that was really hard to not put on the list. But
did that impact the difficulty of your games? Like the fact that
there's something to say about the perseverance. It was, as a kid watching it, whenever I did something hard, I would literally, it sounds stupid. If I wasn't doing a Catholic prayer in my head, I was thinking about Mick Foley getting back up after being knocked out repeatedly and thinking, like, if he can do it, so can I. I don't know. There's something you could say in a way it might have influenced the character of Meat Boy, this put upon character who just suffers, because that's what Mankind was. He was just this, he could just take a beating. He never did anything crazy. He would just take the biggest bumps possible that looked so impressive and would actually make the other wrestlers look really good. And he made a lot of really good careers, like even The Rock and stuff. But there's something about that. It's just so interesting to me, this kind of character that uses their body as this slab of meat in order to garner success.
Yeah.
I don't know. It's just the self-sacrifice Jesus trope, I guess, in a way. That one's definitely up there.
Oh, that's great. I didn't have anything left because I just snuck it all in with the other things, but
One of the ones that was on my list and then I took it off, and I thought you might have touched on it, was the Nine Inch Nails Broken video.
oh, yeah, 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 yeah. I
Because
have
that is
that
like,
right. It's behind this table leg, but
because that is an infamously fucking ballsy move.
yeah,
Like the Broken videos in the 90s, or the Broken video, for people who don't know, was essentially like dubbed as a snuff film.
yeah.
And it looked like that. A lot of it looked disturbing. There's a lot of Bob Flanagan stuff, which is another documentary that I absolutely love. If you haven't seen,
Oh,
it's called
yeah.
Sick.
Yep, I love it.
Yeah. Bob Flanagan's in those. He's in one of the videos. So there's a lot of weird, disturbing videos, but then there's one video that literally looks like a garbled
Is that Pinion? Which one was that?
gave up.
Right, right, right.
I think it's the
That's the one where he's in the
throbbing
chair.
gristle guy did that. Or
Yeah, from Coil. Peter Christoph. Did he do it? Shoot.
he did. I
Yeah,
think he's
it's Peter.
the person in it, the killer with the mask.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Essentially, it's just a kid who's strung up, and it's a music video, but it splices between gore and whatever else, and then this person strung up and being slashed, and then
Yeah, yeah.
they're having sex with this person's holes that are being made.
Yeah.
And it is horrible looking. Like, it looks real, and it is gritty. And as a kid, if you got a dub of this, of like a VHS tape of a VHS tape of VHS, it looks horrible.
Yeah.
And it was like, to literally put out as you're like, it's the full album. I'm pretty sure it's every single song.
It's
on
an
the album has a
EP,
video.
so yeah.
Yeah. And I think it's his best album. To put that out there as like, this is what we're doing, and it's essentially going to be taken as a snuff film. We're going to let people just like dub it repeatedly, so it's whoa, like,
Yeah.
no one will do that again. That took some serious fucking balls.
No, that was huge for me because Pretty Hate Machine was the first album that I heard, which was right when it came out, where as a young man in a very like hyper masculine small town full of lumberjacks and stuff, I was like, what is being a guy? What does that mean? Like, and then I would see all these movies where just tough guys are pushing their feelings down, and I was like, why do I not feel like any of these things? And then I heard Pretty Hate Machine, and I was like, this guy's having feelings. Like, he's clearly sad.
Yeah.
And there's guitar, but it wasn't like solos. It wasn't crazy hard at the time, so I needed that bridge out of synth pop into some of the darker stuff. And then Broken came out right when I was getting angsty and I was angry. And I got it the day it came out. I have the one with the fold out with the 3-inch CD that has the bonus tracks. Yeah, I agree. It's perfect for me. After that time, I didn't need them. When Downward Spiral came out, I was like, nah, because Broken and Fixed were like the thing. And I had just discovered Coil, and those guys were working with Trent doing synth stuff, and then Peter Christopherson was directing those videos. And I was just like, this is the best. Like, this is the best time for me. Like, I would listen to those things over and over and over. And then those videos with Bob Flanagan in the chair and the meat grinder and everything. And I was just like, this is amazing. Like, and I still have that somewhere in the clam case VHS tape.
It was crazy to me to see something so underground.
Yeah.
But so produced.
Yeah.
It looked beautiful.
Yeah.
Could easily be on MTV, but never be on MTV.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And so the fact that they're putting this kind of money and effort into something that wouldn't be seen by a large number of people, it was just really cool too. And it was a cool, I mean, we know the 90s were cool.
Yes.
The late 80s and early 90s were like the shit when it came to being able to say and do whatever you wanted to do as an artist. And I wish we could go back there. I mean, I'm hoping it eventually swings back around. There was a bubbling of that in the early 2000s online. I don't know if I got into web design around that time, and there was a very zine fueled, all the zinesters went to start making some avant-garde balls to the wall type websites that were doing some interesting stuff that couldn't be done now.
Yeah.
I'm hoping eventually. I don't know.
I think you maybe made a game around that time that probably couldn't be done now.
Oh, that was much later.
Okay.
It couldn't be done then. I got in a little trouble for that. What are you going to do? I just wanted to draw penises and vaginas. What are you going to do? Like, folds are really fun to draw. So what you going to do?
Yeah.
You got to do what you got to do.
You do. If anything, we've covered a lot of penis films in this conversation.
Yeah. It's where it's at.
That's where it's at. That's perfect. Well, what's next for you, and how can people stay up to update on what you're doing? Is there
Um,
social media better or a website or?
the only thing that I'm on is Twitter.
Okay.
I think once next year rolls around, I'm going to start doing monthly updates, probably on mugenics.com. I'll go through the process, and I think people like that, and I like talking about
Yeah.
it because sometimes it's hard to explain. This is the most in-depth thing that I've ever worked on, and it would warrant some explanation, or not. I don't really care if you know. I'm not the most entertaining person online. I don't jump through hoops. I tend to just retweet art that people tweet at me and update people on what I'm doing as far as the next game.
You know what? The John Larroquette Bronson Pinchot film was called Second Sight. That
Second Sight.
yeah, that
Yes, 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 yes.
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
Okay, perfect. Got that. And, I wanted to ask you because I've seen in pictures and maybe just right behind you right now is maybe artwork or things that people make for you because of your
Oh
games.
yeah, yeah. The stained glass stuff behind me is stuff that people have sent me.
And then when I was seeing pictures of your collection of movies, there looked like there was like plush dolls and all kinds of stuff, and I didn't know if those things were from your games or from fans or if it's just common when people encounter you, they just have stuff on them that they're like, I made this.
For a long time, I would be like, "Hey, if you've got anything cool, I'll gladly display it in my curios.
Okay,
And
cool.
if you want to send it to me, here's a PO box." And people would send me stuff over the years. Or if somebody's like, "Hey, I'm an independent artist and I want to put up stuff on Etsy. Can I do that?" I'm like, "Okay, but send me one."
Nice.
Send me something to show off. And then most of the plush stuff is probably stuff that my wife did. That's what
Okay, cool.
she does and used to do before kids a lot.
Does she have an Etsy site or?
She stopped.
Okay.
Things got
Well,
overwhelming.
now
Like
now you got two kids, so.
well, even before that, it was just kind of, she was really prolific for quite a while and just did crazy stuff. And then she got into the mode of making money off of it. And she made a lot of money off of it by making my characters and selling those. And then we had an online store that went absolutely insane, like thousands of orders every month. And we had to go to the fucking, you know how it is.
Yeah.
it gets grueling, and it gets to the point where we'd have to shut it down and it would just get overwhelming. And then we decided to stop doing the indie stuff and just let other people do it because it was not worth it anymore
Yeah.
time wise.
Well, I
But
just had to ask
I
'cause
hope she can
saw.
get back to it because it's really great. She does some really good stuff.
Yeah, no, I
She never
agree.
she never has time anymore.
I get it. It's that mom stuff. And then the last thing I want to say before we signed off, something that you touched on in one of the other podcasts you were on, which was just being someone that's working from home and having kids in the home, the difficulty of them understanding that you're working
Yeah.
and not ignoring them is like that was such a real thing because like my daughter comes, there's a spiral staircase down to right where I do all the labeling and emails and everything, and she comes down and just hangs from that, just staring at me like, can we play, can we, and
It's heartbreaking. It
oh,
is
it's the
heartbreaking.
worst. And I'm like, okay, if I take a break now and I just work tonight when she goes to bed, I can do it, like, because I try to make time, but you also stuff has to happen by deadlines. It's just like,
I know, and it feels it feels that much more awful to see it. I still haven't put a lock on the door. They can come in freely. And even though I'm working on the biggest project ever, I try to budget my time. And even now, I touched on it when we just started talking, was just we were considering homeschool stuff. That's going to be so hard.
yeah. Yeah, I can tell you I had a K through 3 behavioral life skills classroom, and that was so much easier than trying to teach my daughter during the pandemic. I was like, oh my gosh, this is insane. Because it's your own kid. It's just tricky. I'm sure, I have no doubt that you'll find a way and that there's excellent resources for homeschooling now, but
There's a developer, his name's Jason Rohrer. He does some avant-garde games. He's a good guy. And he does this thing called unschooling, where there's no school. There's no school, there's no
oh,
rules, and the kids learn as they go. And it seemed like the most batshit insane thing ever, but eventually his oldest learned to read, and it was kind of what you described too. Like he gravitated towards video games, and then he needed to learn to read in order to play them. So he
right. Yeah.
learned to read. And that's the kind of way that they roll, which is a very hippy dippy life, which I could get down with at some point. I don't know. I don't know where I'm going yet.
Yeah,
I'm still figuring it out. I don't want to misstep. That's just where I'm at.
I know.
I don't want to make the wrong decision for somebody else's life.
Yeah,
I can't be responsible for that.
right. No, it's too hard.
But then school fucking sucks.
They suck. Kids are
It
mean.
sucks, and it doesn't make sense. Oh, and it's so throwaway. It's like, Jesus Christ, somebody fucking update that system. It's just so fucking flawed. Like, how
Yeah.
about just basic life skills classes?
Yeah, I know. Learn something that you could use. Yeah, my daughter just today at dinner was like, I hate math. My wife and I were like, yeah. And my daughter goes, Dad, did you ever like math? And I said, no, not once. And she's like, okay, cool. I'm like, we don't
That is
expect you
fucking
to.
worthless. Oh man, that just made me realize that there would have been, if there was a number 11, I realize now what it would be. If I had a number 11, it would be the Chris Chan docuseries on YouTube. Do you know who Chris Chan is?
No.
Oh man, you're gonna deep dive. Chris Chan is an autistic artist who was mercilessly abused by people online trolling him.
Oh my gosh.
And they trolled him into his own world. Like they trolled him into his psyche, if that makes sense. He's now and also in jail for having sex with their mom.
Okay.
Check out that docuseries. The reason why I brought it up is because one of the most crazy things that I've seen when Chris was young, they used to do Little Big Planet videos where they would rehash their life. Back in the day, that's all he was doing, was making comics and writing about his experience being autistic. And he was doing it in this abstract fashion where he had a superhero called Sonichu, which was just Pikachu and Sonic together.
Sure.
And he was telling this bizarre, but it would just be like, here's Sonichu fighting a monster. And then it would just like cut to like, and here's Mary Lee Walsh. She tried to stop me from meeting my true love. Like, it was just like, wow. It's just like, wow, this is crazy. Man, it's too hard to.
Okay. Well, I will look that up for sure.
Basically, he did this video and he talked about school and how bad school was for him because he learned all the technical things, but he learned no life skills. And the thing that he kept saying was, why didn't you teach me how to find a girlfriend, how to keep a girlfriend, what to say in that situation? Like, I had health class and they taught me about sex, but they didn't teach me just the basics of like, how do I ask somebody out on a date?
Mm-hmm.
And he struggled with that. And that was the foundation of who he was. He constantly misstepped because of his desire to have a partner and inability to do so. And fast forward, he had sex with his fucking mom in jail.
So dark. Oh, well, I knew we'd end in an optimistic, fun way. Edmund, thank you so much for your time and for sharing these 11 picks.
Yeah. I'll add that she was elderly and had dementia.
Oh, God. No, it's worse.
She is in jail.
Okay.
Actually institutionalized, I think, at this point. I don't know. It's not going to end well.
Okay, well.
I got them to do a card. I got them to do art. It was like a peak for me. And days after announcing that this card was going to be in my Kickstarter, she had to go and have sex with her mom and then have somebody record the audio of her explaining how this went down. And then it got leaked and then ran from the cops. Whew.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
And they made me take it out. You can't leave the rapist's card in there. I still got to print it for myself. And then the worst is I couldn't get the art. I paid for it. I commissioned it. But I've got this. Wait, watch this.
Cancel culture is really bad. Okay, what is that?
I wrote Chris in jail.
Oh, wow.
And she sent me this blessing. At this point, Chris believed she was Jesus.
Oh, okay, yeah.
And also believed that the dimensional merge would happen, which would make everybody's characters become real and merge with the real world.
Wow.
And then this is a blessing that they sent me. And it's on a Fanta wrapper. I love Chris. It's sad. I don't love the rape part.
Sure.
But
let's be on the record with that.
But I actually think their story, including what the internet and humanity has done to them and what they've done to themselves, is very unique story.
Yeah, and that's a documentary.
It is like a fucking 70-part documentary. Like an hour long each. So good luck.
70 hours.
It's worth watching.
Okay.
Just put on the first 10. The first 10 will give you a really, really good idea of how this starts and where it goes.
Okay.
And it drags after that.
Okay. Until the end. All right. Well, Edmund, this has been fantastic. Thank you for your time and for sharing all these things.
Yeah, it was fun. I'm going to go to bed, I guess.
As always, I'm still Dirk Marshall, and this has been VHS Presents Chillin' with Edmund McMillen, maybe?
That's a good one.
It's terrible. All right. Thanks for listening.